Hi everyone, and welcome back to Carson Motors as we begin the fourth installment of our web show series. With me again, as always, is Sean McGarry.
How y'all doing? I just wanted to say we really appreciate the feedback we're getting from these webisodes. And go ahead and check out our Facebook page. Give us a like. If you like this video, down below, give it a like and subscribe. Go ahead and let us know you care. If you have any questions for me or Carson, go ahead and send it to yahoo.com.
That's right, as Sean said, our email address is carsonmotors@yahoo.com. So to continue our web show, we have here a 1935 Norton 16-inch. The Norton marquee is another British marquee, and it was begun in 1898 in Birmingham, England. It originally began as a motorcycle parts manufacturer, though in 1902 they manufactured their first machines. However, in these first machines they outsourced the motors to JAP, and it wasn't until 1908 that Norton manufactured their first. So in our first web show we showed you the 1937 BSA M20, which is a military model that the British use. In addition to the WM20, as well as Royal Enfield, the British Army contracted out to Norton for a military motorcycle. Norton responded with 100,000 16H models. 16H is a 500cc single-cylinder side valve motor, and this is an original civilian example. This particular machine we acquired about 2 years ago, and it actually originally came from Australia. It was manufactured in England, and it was shipped to Australia for Australian use. The gentleman we purchased this machine from had it road legal in Australia, and when cleaning out the toolbox, we discovered that he left the Australian registration document on it, which is actually pretty cool to find.
This machine has been restored to a Concours level and has an original 4,000 miles on it.
As Sean mentioned, this is a Concours level restoration on this machine. The difference between a regular restoration and a Concours is that the Concours de Elegance is the highest level of restoration. It's basically back to original specifications as from the factory. Concours de Elegance events are the highest level of showing that you can do in the antique motorcycle or automobile world. To be able to enter the Concours de Elegance event, it has to be restored nut and bolt back to original specifications, as well as being in running condition. One of the biggest Concours de Elegance events is every year in Pebble Beach, California, where riders of motorcycles and automobiles are expected to be able to drive or ride their machine up on stage to accept an award if they're chosen. So now that we've covered some of the history on this Norton brand as well as this particular motorcycle, I'd like to do some of the specifications about this bike. Starting out on the front end, you can see it has the drum brake setup. This is your speedometer drive. There's a cable driven up to your Smith's chronometric speedometer, which, as Sean said, has about 4,000 original miles on the clock. Moving back, you can see it has the pedestrian slicer, same as the BSA we mentioned in the first episode. So this has a show license plate on it rather than an actual British registration. On the headlight, it has the original ignition switch, just like on the BSA, amp meter switch, girder front end on it. Moving back to the handlebars, you can see on the left side it has the clutch, hand clutch, a compression release. This is your air control knob, dipper switch for the headlight, horn button. This is your dampener knob for the front end. It'll change your turning radius on the front end to make it a loose turn or a tight turn. On this side you have the magneto control and your front brake, as well as your twist grip throttle. Now on the tank it has tank pads for all your riding. You put your knee pads on that. On this side you can see it has the patented Norton oil bath primary with a viewing slot. It has a 6-volt magneto on it, Lucas magneto. Like I said earlier, it's a single-cylinder side valve motor. This is the Lucas battery box. This box is empty, as you know, we normally show this so we don't keep a battery live in it. It has a 6-volt electric system. However, the magneto will start and run this motorcycle. Moving even further back, you can see your rear brake control. This rod comes back and turns on your brake light switch, which will turn on the power to the brake light. Unique thing about this bike is on the rear fender, it's actually a 2-part rear fender to make tire changes on the road easy. All you do is unbolt these and you can pull the lower fender off. On the very back end, where the license plate should be, you can see that it carries 2 brake lights. Now earlier I mentioned that the gentleman in Australia had it road legal. This is the actual original light on it, though he felt it didn't provide enough light, so he installed a second 1950s, 1960s style Lucas brake light. Now, to take it back to Concours condition for a Concours event, we'll probably remove this. On the right side of the motorcycle, you can see has the exhaust pipe and muffler coming out, both chrome plated. The toolbox, which carries, as I said earlier, the Australian registration. It's a kickstart, foot change with a 4-speed gearbox. This gearbox does have a gear indicator, which is pretty well marked. This is your oil tank. And an interesting thing about the oil tank is the oil cap, which, if you can, I'm not sure if you can zoom in on this or not, but it actually has written on there the types of supported oils that Norton recommended for riders. You can see it has Castrol, SO, and a few others. It has an ample monoblock carburetor, which is brass. It's actually pretty functional. I mean, no real problems with it. Didn't even have to rebuild it. It's a twin feed fuel tap. On this side, you can see behind this cover is where the valves are, and this is your timing chain in here. Moving forward, it has 6-volt horn on it, and that about wraps it up for specifications on the bike. So in our previous Webisode series, we've actually had riding portions. Unfortunately for this motorcycle, we had a mishap a few weeks ago, and the rear inner tube on the rear tire failed because of dry rot. So for this bike, we will not have a riding portion. We can come back later and put a riding portion in. However, I will start it up for you and let you hear it run. Okay, so the process to start this is much like the BSA M20. You start by turning on your fuel taps. This has a dual fuel tap on both sides. You want to prime your ammo monoblock. Do a few taps until gas comes out of the top of the float chamber. You pull in your decompression release and give it a few kick throughs. You want to make sure it's in neutral, obviously. Then you want to make sure, and each one of these old machines is different as far as settings. They have a different air setting and a different magneto setting for starting. So to keep them all in line in your brain is kind of difficult, but this has a particular setting which you've already set, so it should, with any luck, fire right out. That'll wrap it up for Webisode 4. This is the 1935 Norton 16H. Next week we'll continue with another Webisode from another vintage bike in the Carson Class Motors collection. Stay tuned.